Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm in my back garden at the side of the house, and these are the tomato plants that I normally don't put out until say the end of May or the beginning of June. So why have I put them out? That's because of the unseasonably really hot weather we had in April and indoors, and I don't have a greenhouse, so they were in the dining room floor. They were just getting so lanky. And I started what I call chasing the shade, putting them out in the garden, bringing them in, taking them out, bringing them in. And then I was damaging so many. I put a few here and the rest have gone back indoors to get very lanky, and they will be going out on the allotment later on. In front here I have radishes. Radishes are a cool weather plant and they need to be grown really quickly so they don't get woody. And here I have white icicle, which I've grown before, and it's a lovely white radish that is crisp and tender and is about 1.5 to 2 inches long. Here I have raisin butter, never tried them before. There's nothing coming up at the moment. Oh, I didn't see those. Look at those, lovely little radishes. Over here we have French breakfast, which is quite a popular radish, but nothing coming up there. Here I have Vienna, which I've had one of them. There's some few radishes coming up round here. And it was tender, crispy and sweet and very juicy, so that was very pleasant. And then finally here I have Ostergrus, and they're slowly coming up. I have been planting, well, multi-sowing. That seems to be the thing that YouTubers are doing, and it doesn't look as if it's been multi-sown, but this is what it looks like just before I planted them out. I'm used to multi-sowing spring onions because I've done that for years, because they advised us to do that in Gardener's World many years ago, and that's fine. But I haven't tried multi-sowing before, and I'll be doing that with a few other vegetables on the allotment. Going back to the tomatoes, I have cherry tomatoes along here. These first four are Sun Gold, which are a very popular sweet cherry tomato, an orange colour, and I always grow these outside the door so I can just eat them as I come in and out. And over here I have chocolate cherry, which there's a channel called Grown to Cook, and I believe the very pleasant young woman there and her children last summer had a taste test, and I believe chocolate cherry came somewhere near the top, so we'll see how that goes. In front I have some lettuces. This is called, never heard of it, but Robinson. And over here, iceberg. I've not grown an iceberg before. And over here, my favourites, bijou, which you can just about see them because they're practically the same colour as the soil. And bijou, when they're big enough, the slugs and snails don't like them, but they do eat them when they're small seedlings. And right at the end, we'll just go back again, I have land cress, which I used to have in the garden. It used to seed itself, but it stopped seeding itself, and that tends to grow well in the cool weather as well. And I grow them out here because I just can't on the windowsill grow seedlings of lettuce. They just will not grow. So I found the best way is to sow them outside, and when they want to come up they will. And if I sow them a bit earlier, I'll put a bit of glass over them, and that brings them on nicely. And these are the 8 potato tubs of Charlotte at the side of the house, over which I put planks such as that piece of wood over there to prevent the foxes from digging up the soil, but it wasn't very efficient. But then I saw Nigel from Muddy Boots Allotment, and he used a netting over them, and so that's what I used, a bit of debris netting, which worked fine until my cat started sleeping on this, because this is a very sunny area. It's south facing. So what I did was to put these kind of plant supports and some sticks with some pills over and raise the netting, especially as the haulm was growing, and that worked perfectly well. And I'll do that again next year so I can still protect them with the netting and prevent my cats and the foxies from doing damage to them. And over here are a further 4 pots of potatoes, 2 shallots, 1 swift, 1 kestrel. Neither of those have I grown before. And if I go further back, I have the opal plum tree, which is full of little plums that I have to thin out soon. I also have to put a pheromone lure for the adult plum moth, which will kill them off, but not the females, so that I don't get so many little maggots in the early lot of plums. And if I come back down here, I am trying to use up as much space as I can. I have, yes, a multi-sown bolt hardy beetroot. And over there, again, the rhubarb is taking over, so I don't expect to get much there. And here I'll be planting out the Brussels sprouts pretty soon. And these are some of the seedlings I have growing. In the front here are those Brussels sprouts that I'm going to put in soon. They're called Dolores. I've not grown these before. And in the front here are the multi-sown spring onions called Ramrod, which I first heard of from Ron's car park allotment. I'm not sure quite what you call it, Ron. And in the back here I have the leeks, which again I'm going to try to multi-sow. I'm not sure it's the way you do it, some of them. I have a few below zero, Bulgarian Giant, Lion or Leon Price Taker, and Autumn Giant. And I'm hoping to get some decent leeks this year. Over here I have the stubby carrots, which I had good success with last year. Atlas, Paris Market, Royal Chantenay, and here I've got both of them. This is the old pot I had, the old window box that I had, and I bought these two from Wilko for £2.50 each, and I think I've seen them on the internet for £3.50 plus post and packaging. And they're meant to be, they're meant to hold some water at the bottom because the plastic goes up underneath and the actual drainage hole is at the top, so there's area around here for the water to stay and remain and keep it well watered. And I couldn't resist showing you some beautiful irises called Bluebird Wine before we go back to the allotment. Well, I'm back on the allotment on plot 1, and this is a brief overview, just a picture of what plot 1 looks like, with the broad beans over there, one plot of strawberries there, second bed of strawberries there, the black currants there, the garlic just behind it, and the berries in the distance. Well, here are the broad beans, and I took my first harvest from them yesterday, and these are some lovely pods. And to me it's important to palpate because they might look reasonably big, but they're actually undeveloped seeds inside. Although some people have told me, oh, you should be picking them, they're really quite large, but no, the beans still have to develop, and so this is the way I do it. At the top I've pinched out the little tops of the plants to prevent black fly getting in. I don't have any black fly this year. Last year, this time of the year, it was absolutely covered in black fly, which wasn't a problem because all I had to do was to wash the pods and then to open the pods out, and there was no problems with the beans themselves. Over here is one bed of strawberries doing quite nicely, and the multi-sown Ishikura spring onions there with lots of lovely blossoms, hoping I'm going to get some good strawberries this year. And next to the strawberries are the black currants, and near them, round them, we have beautiful flowers such as the forget-me-nots, which seed themselves, and over there the borage, which is absolutely loved by bees. The borage is an annual, as are the forget-me-nots, are actually biennials, and they come up of their own volition. I have 3 plants of Ben Sarek here, cuttings, and this one I don't expect to do well because I cut an awful lot of branches off which were trailing on the ground to give it a better shape. And we come up to here, and I did the same partially for this one as well, so I've really only got one that's doing really well and it's got lots of berries on it. Here I have the poached egg plant, which is called poached egg because it has a white and yellow flower. For some reason these have reverted to the dominant colour of yellow, but they're still beautiful and I'm very happy to have them. They've seeded themselves and they attract the pollinators. And I'm balancing on bits of wood that someone has given me, which is going to replace some of these very old and rotten raised beds. And then we have Big Ben, which is again doing really nicely. I've got lots of lovely berries there. I come round this side and onto the shallots, which I have weeded several times, but the more I feed and weed, the more they grow again. Well, the weeds as well as the shallots, and they're splitting out now. And I think they'll be harvested around about end of June, July, somewhere around there. Then the garlic, which does need weeding. This again is Carcassonne white. And then we come along to Provence white, which I did manage to weed. At the side of the garlic, to one side just behind it, are the berries, and these are the boysenberries. And they are full of bees, even more so in the afternoon sun rather than the morning sun. And this sun, I'm filming into it, so I can't see too well. I'm not sure if you can hear them, possibly, but certainly by the afternoon this is one big buzz. And if you compare this beautiful blossom to that of the tayberry, I think it's a tayberry, maybe it's not, these are already starting to go over and starting to form little fruits. So I have one of those over here, and coming over to this side I have two of these plants. That one there, the biggest one, and then a smaller one which grew from the big mother plant. And over at the back I thought I had grown something that was maybe a boysenberry, but by the looks of it, it might be a tayberry or just an ordinary blackberry. I really don't know what this is, so that should be interesting to see how that performs. And at the side of the berries is a wildlife pond, and over there is the fern that looked pretty awful in spring because the fronds are all dead, but it always comes back with lovely fresh green fronds which will slowly hang down a bit. And then there's the oxeye daisy and the rhubarb that is very sour, so I won't be picking its leaves, so it will form some protection for any wildlife here, particularly the frogs. And I did have a frog in there. It's only about that big, but it had trouble getting out the sides because the water level was too low. So I've raised the water level, and I'll raise it even further. I'll just come out here so my shadow isn't in the way. And try not to trip up too much. And I put lots of other bits of logs in to help any creatures come out. And I had decided to get a little water plant, and I was looking around just before lockdown and I didn't get around to buying one, but I will do at some point in the future. And over at the back is the asparagus, which I seem to be cutting every other day. I'm not fed up of asparagus, but I'm really enjoying them. They get watered well, they get fed well. I've been using the nettle feed that I made, which I've run out of now, and I've been using that on a few of the green plants as well. And over at the side here is the next bed that I'm just making, which will be a single raised bed. I had hoped to get a double because over here, if you remember, I was whacking my feet in water. It floods quite a bit in winter, but I've got enough wood for one more bed, and I might have space for the leeks in there. And this again is a brief overview of plot 2. And we start off with the overwintering onions. And these are the radar onions, the overwintering onions, which are doing really well. And I've been feeding them with nitrogenous nettle liquid manure, which I have now run out of, and I'll be making some more very quickly. I must say that the forget-me-nots, which have self-seeded themselves, are really looking beautiful. And again, they do attract the insects. And yes, the chard is still here. It is still giving, and therefore I am taking. And I've given a good few leaves away, and I've been eating some. I put the sticks up where, well, just a couple of the sticks to denote where one of the beans are going to go. It keeps my mind settled, but the beans aren't going to go in for a little while, so the chard is going to remain there. In the middle I have what is going to be, well, it is a flower bed, and the first plants that came up, which I kept in over the winter, are the gladioli, and they're doing quite well. And there are a few dahlias which are coming up as well. In the middle over the arch I'll be having some Marketmore cucumbers and also some climbing courgettes. Well, that's the end of the video today. Thank you for watching. Please comment and subscribe because it's much appreciated.